So thank you so much for being here for this very first inaugural physician storytelling event. This night is actually about 2 years in the making, and it would not have been possible without the vision and leadership of our host for this evening, Dr. Shane Pullen. Hopefully you guys could hear me okay the whole time, but that's much better. So what I was saying was, this evening wouldn't have happened without the planning of our host for the evening, Dr. Shane Pullen. And I'm personally very lucky to call Shane one of my good friends. And the reason Shane is such a wonderful friend is the same reason that she's a brilliant physician. It's because she brings her full heart to everything that she does. And she embodies that sense of community that we all value so much here in the Inland Empire, which is what we're celebrating tonight. Shane brings her full heart to so many of the roles that she carries. Last year, as the president of our local chapter of the California Academy of Family Physicians, she made it a point to include the voices of more medical students and resident physicians as part of our leadership and in our policy and advocacy efforts. And currently, as a board member of the statewide California Academy of Family Physicians, she also pushes to advocate on behalf of our profession as family medicine physicians in primary care, and on behalf of our patients in our community as well. And Shane also, probably the most challenging role currently, she brings her full heart to her role as a family medicine doctor at Planned Parenthood of San Bernardino, making sure that her patients continue to get access to primary care services despite the federal attacks and funding cuts that have made it impossible for them to continue their services in reproductive health and primary care in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. So you couldn't really have a better person to lead us tonight in planning for this entire event and hosting this evening when you think about our theme of lost and found. Because in my life, whether it's as a physician or as a citizen, when I'm feeling lost, I can always count on my friend Shane to help me find my way back into something a little bit more positive and inclusive and inspiring. And I think tonight is a really wonderful example of that. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our host for the evening and the best person I know who happens to be a physician, Dr. Shane Pullen.
Thank you, Dr. Rajwa. I very much appreciate your remarks tonight, and I'm proudly humbled if he knows I do not like to be the center of attention. But thank you so much. And good evening. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and welcome to the Nocturnists satellite performance of Lost and Found. So the Nocturnists is a organization out of San Francisco that has been working to humanize healthcare through storytelling since 2016. And tonight our event is hosted by the Riverside-San Bernardino California Academy of Family Physician chapter, and made possible by a grant from the California Health Foundation. And so tonight we're exploring these themes of lost and found. And in the current state of the world and healthcare, it's easy to feel lost and directionless. And so tonight, I hope we connect through our stories and find community. And before I introduce our first storyteller, I want to thank a very special person, Naomi, who is somewhere in this audience. And for all of the wonderful things Dr. Bajwa just said about me, Naomi is the one who made everything tonight possible, and I cannot thank you enough for everything that you have done. So first this evening, we have Dr. Tanushree Nair, who is a family physician and a writer. A recent Chicago transplant, she now works in Orange County caring for a diverse population with a special interest in women's health. When she's not in clinic, she enjoys reading, writing, dancing, and traveling. Please welcome Dr. Nair.
Okay. I was given strict instructions by my attending for the day. Don't linger in your car. don't wander around our neighborhood. The people that live here know their neighbors, and they'll know an outsider when they see one. Text me as soon as you arrive. Look for the green roof. Easier said than done. I was on week 1 of 4 of my underservants in rotation. And it was a stark difference from the cookie-cutter outpatient clinics I was used to. Gone were the rows of supply closets full of extra snacks and free samples, replaced instead with old-school paper charts and tralickets of self-sourced sanitizers and gloves. I was now informed by my attending that I would be following her to halfway houses for the recently incarcerated in the south side of Chicago, an area I was completely unfamiliar with, aside from its reputation as prime-riddled and impoverished. As such, my attending's words carry with them a sense of danger. Yet, this was residency, and any good resident will tell you that a chronic state of adrenaline fueled by too little sleep and a dash of caffeine is the quickest way to get acquainted with even the most unfamiliar settings. As I drove in the next morning, I felt a million miles away from the Chicago IE. A quick glance at the map reminded me I was in Roseland, 25 miles from the suburbs I grew up in. Whereas my neighborhood was littered with grocery stores, parks, and libraries, Roseland seemed like the kind of place you had to drive through to get to where you really needed to be. I couldn't imagine walking safely to my car in this area, let alone growing up in this high-stress arena or working here as a physician. I wondered what had gone so wrong in the lives of my attendings that this is where they had ended up working. You heard right. My GPS sang out as I pulled onto a side street. I couldn't see any signs or official-looking buildings that signaled this halfway house. I immediately texted my attending, praying for a prompt response. Minutes passed, no reply, and my anxiety ballooned. I could hear the sound of a heart beating in my ears as I was looking at the rows of empty driveways until finally my eyes caught 2 guys smoking and chatting, leaning up against the side of the building with bright green awnings. I decided to go up to them against my better judgment and everything I had been told to ask for some directions. Completely unfazed by my interruption, the 2 men pointed towards a nearby building and went right back to their gossiping. As I made my way towards the unmarked building, I was vividly picturing the multitude of macabre ways that this could end. And suddenly the door swung open. There was my attending. And from there on out, it was business as usual. The site is Elise. You probably can find it on the map because we rotate locations pretty frequently, she explained, as she led me into a windowless patient room. Apparently this was her 5th year at Cornerstone Recovering Community. She was a transplant from a prior well-paying urgent care gig. The space she led me into was piled high with mail, and the walls were tacked with handwritten phone daggers, and in the corners of the room were strewn rat tracks. I sat down gingerly, trying to avoid contact with any questionable surfaces. Surely seeing patients here was some sort of health code violation. The first patient of our day took his seat against the neon pink backdrop of our clinic walls. And I had to wonder if his eyes had also caught the faded Disney-themed decor on the walls, signaling that this was once a child's bedroom. The thick heat of July was palpable. In unison, we wiped away the sweat off our brows to happen reconvene minutes later. Our patient, Mary, was a type 2 diabetic. My native instinct to reach for a cardiac risk score calculator is foiled by the lack of a laptop or an iPad. Unfazed, my attending handed him a folded up piece of paper containing a list of local food pantries and some glucose test strip vouchers. By the end of our time together, Mary had had a point-of-care blood sugar test, the phone number and contact information for a local social worker, and a bag of condoms for good measure. The Minnie Mouse clock on the wall cried out. An hour had passed, and the day had just begun. As one by one, the inhabitants of Cornerstone rotated in and out of our makeshift patient room, I quickly realized how many of the clinical algorithms I had learned in medical school were completely useless here. I felt helpless without my usual labs and imaging resources. I couldn't imagine how physicians who worked here weren't at their wits' ends constantly, working with this crumbling system. But when I approached and confronted my attending about it, she explained to me that the opportunity to practice medicine in this ecosystem outside the system was as much a blessing as it was a challenge. And it was the reason she had left her cushy outpatient job at a larger healthcare system. There are no appointment times here, no admin and no metrics, no in-basket messages that follow you home, no fighting insurance companies, and no prior authorizations, she listed. It was suddenly clear to me. In this seemingly chaotic landscape, there was an unexpected oasis from the shackles of modern-day medicine. Here, there was peace. The sun was beginning to set, and I was back in my Corolla, ready to head home. I wondered about the two men who died in you this morning, and how deeply intertwined their access to healthcare was with their zip code. I wondered about the physicians that worked at Cornerstone and how they traded in their creature comforts for another kind of luxury, one of time and autonomy. The beating of my own heart in my ears was long one, replaced with the faint hum of fireflies in the night. In the dim glow, the street looked familiar.
Thank you, Tana. Such a good representation of what it's like to provide underserved medicine. Our next storyteller tonight is Dr. Uziel Sauceda. He's a family physician who immigrated to Southern California from Mexico when he was 8 years old. He's faculty at Riverside University Health System Family Medicine Residency Program and program director of the RUHS Sports Medicine Fellowship. He's team doctor for UC Riverside's athletics and himself a competitive boxer. Please welcome.
It is another night, and this time it is my turn to be at the hospital. It is the second year of family medicine residency, and I find that I have fully hit my stride. No longer am I afraid of this hospital. No longer am I lost in the halls. No longer do I get palpitations when I hear another page about my patients. And no longer do I have a second guess of fear when I type in the title order. The hospital has almost become my home. I've become familiar with the fluorescent lights. I've become familiar with even the smells. It smells a mix of cleaning chemicals and sickly body odors. The combination lingers in the hallways, but when you walk into a room, you know which one overpowers what. So as I walk to the hospital, I need to get the patient list from the daytime resident. And I walk and I open the door, and the tired resident looks at me in relief. He is ready to go home. And he has also been surrounded by fluorescent lights, computers, and no windows. So I get the list from him. It is the usual list of patients that I've come to be very accustomed to. People with diabetes complications, people with liver disease, cancer complications. There is one patient that is new. And this patient is signed out to me as, oh, he has a low blood count. We don't know why, but you can handle it for tonight. And I say, I wonder if this guy's gonna get me trouble. We have a shared mantra as residents. We learn this very early on. We say, don't kill anybody. Or better said, you have to keep him alive. At least keep him alive until the morning. So then I started running through a list of why this guy is here. There's really only two possibilities. He has lost blood, or he's not producing enough. And if I were to take a bet, this guy smells like a GI bleeder from far away. And this is something where you bleed from your stomach or your intestines, which can be fatal. And I think there will be no deaths tonight. So then, as I continue thinking about all this, the resident walks away. He's gone. And it's just me tonight. Which doesn't bother me. After all, I have hit my stride. So then I walk over to the hospital halls, the familiar hospital halls with the team of nurses that I have come to know and love, and sometimes be irritated at, but mostly love. And the nurses greet me at night and say, come, enjoy a treat, I brought it from home. So I indulge in a cookie. And then after that, I walk to the patient room. And I've gone to the patient room on the outside, put my list on my pocket, take a big deep breath, and then I walk in. So I walk in, and the room is dark, and I see the patient from far away. He's illuminated by, again, an overhead dim fluorescent light. And I walk up to him, and I see a thin Caucasian man. White hair, white beard. And at the same moment, I notice in his cheek, there's a very dark swastika symbol. And at the moment, I think, that resident should let me know. This human has now become a symbol of some of my past rejections. So the time freezes. And I think, I hope he doesn't have a Mexican man taking care of her. So then I prepare myself mentally and emotionally. And as I prepare myself in the frozen state of time, I get transported to Manaus, 8 years old. I had lunch just with every other kid, except my mom loved to eat island lunch. And I was eating a bean sandwich, whereas the other kids were eating their ham and cheese sandwich. And out of the corner of my ear, I hear, hey, that kid's beat her. And at the moment, I didn't know what that meant. The second transport is when I was in my early 20s, walking with my white girlfriend in a parking lot. And a Suburban drives by, the window rolls down. A middle-aged lady says, hey, go back to your country. And I remember thinking at the time, I don't think it would have mattered if she knew that I crossed over illegally. So, with my armor fully protecting me that night, I proceed to take care of this girl. Nobody's gonna get a rise out of me tonight. So I introduced myself. Hi, sir. How are you going? My name is Uziel Sauceda. I'll be taking care of you tonight. How do you feel? I know that you have a low blood count. Do you have any pain? Do you have any bleeding anywhere? And the patient looks at me with a very fatigued face, says, no, I feel fine. I don't have any of that. And then I look at him, and I sense no hostility in his face. And my God is, I will keep my armor on just in case. So I continue to examine him with his permission. We go all the way down, everything seems normal. I uncover his green gown and I look at his belly. And across his belly is white power. Big, bold letters. And again, I've become a master at hiding judgment at this point. And I look at his face to see if there's any reaction. There's none. So with that out of the way, I continue with my exam and I press some prod and see if I can provocate any sort of sign of a disease. Nothing. So then I finish my exam, I excuse myself, thank you, sir. We will take good care of you tonight. And I walk away. And as I continue seeing the other patients that night, I keep circling back to this patient. What a puzzling picture. Where is the problem? So then the repeat blood count is still low. Okay, let's give him some blood. Give him 2 units. That should be enough. That's 2 bags. But repeat after that is still not better. I go back up there, see him again. Do the same thing. He says the same things. So then I say, I will watch him for tonight. After all, this is a night watch. And then my ideas get the best of me as I'm sitting on the sofa residently. Seemingly in an instant, I get paged, but an hour has passed by. Doctor, the patient vomited old blood all over himself. And I think, I have been vindicated. I knew this was my genitalia for tonight. So I run up there, talk to the patient, see the green robe now is stained brown. And I tell him, sir, the specialist will take you. Today you're gonna be in the intensive care. You're gonna be taken care of until morning. You're gonna be okay. And the patient says, okay. And then we part ways. The goal has been fulfilled. Keep him alive until the morning. The excitement of the night was keeping me alive. So I start preparing a list because it's about 2 hours until the day team comes. And I start thinking to myself reflections. Should I have asked about his age? And at that point, my need for shielding was bigger than my curiosity. And at that point, maybe his illness was bigger than whatever ideology he had. After all, self-preservation usually is key. Could I have saved him if he had confirmed my suspicions? Before I pondered too long, my ideas got the best of me again. And then I got woken up by the daytime resident wanting sign out. Thank you.
Thank you, Uziel, for sharing such a powerful story. Up next, we have Dr. Gabrielle Pina, who is a pediatric hospitalist and educator at Loma Linda University Children's Health, where she serves as Associate Program Director for the Pediatric Residency Program and Chair of the Faculty Medical Group Community Engagement and Belonging Committee. She also leads statewide efforts as the Chair of District 2 for the California Medical Association Board of Trustees. Dr. Pina designs innovative community-based curricula with longitudinal pathway programs to inspire future healthcare professionals while strengthening California's physician workplace force to better serve underserved and diverse communities. Please welcome Dr. Pina.
Do you guys ever have one of those sounds that triggers a memory? Whether it's good, like the sound of the bell ringing on the bicycle as you rode through the neighborhood, or annoying, like the dialect tone when you're waiting for an AOL Instant Messenger to load. Mine is a little anxiety producing. My sound is the sound of a click and flake of a blood pressure, which seems like a poor thing to be triggered by as somebody who works in healthcare. But let me tell you why. So I was 4 days postpartum. I had a beautiful baby boy a little earlier than I think he wanted to come out because my blood pressure was a little high at 38 weeks. Had a lovely delivery without any complications. She just came out a little bit small. Got to go home after 24 hours of hospitalization and was told to follow up 3 days postpartum for a blood pressure check. So, when I think of blood pressure checks, when someone says, hey, you got to come back for a blood pressure check, I think I'm going to Costco and sticking my arm in the machine and getting a number and going home. So I tell my husband, we've been up all night breastfeeding every hour to an hour and a half, and I go, look, I'm going to be gone an hour max. So quick blood pressure check, I'm going to be right home. Just keep them alive. That's all I ask. He goes, cool, no problem. So I put on my strapless dress because I'm 4 days postpartum and nothing fits and my feet are stupid swollen, so I'm wearing my husband's flip-flops. I throw a beret on my hair because honestly, a beret makes everything look better. And I hop in the car. I'm obviously wearing my glasses because God knows contacts would not staying and how gritty my eyes were. The drive to Loma Linda is like 25 minutes. I get there and it's a Saturday, so I have to go to the OB triage. Parking at Loma is about 10 minutes from the hospital, so it's a 10-minute walk. Did I mention it was July? 4 days postpartum, sausage feet, and 100 degrees outside. It was a long walk. By the time I make it up to the floor for postpartum, I am out of breath and sweaty and just want to sit down. I get a nice breeze of the air conditioning and I approach the desk as the two people behind the desk are complaining about their significant other. Girl, do you know he did not take out the trash again? I can't believe he did that. I lean forward and I say, girl, me neither. I understand where you at, but I do need to check in. So can I have some paperwork? I grab the paperwork and I sit down in the waiting room. The waiting room for the triage is very open. There's a bunch of chairs and a TV that may or may not work. and then a single chair next to a very large weight scale, which is both rude and probably appropriate for a postpartum pregnancy area. And that's where the vitals get done. I submit my paperwork and wait for them to call me. I'm sitting in the vitals chair and the nurse comes by and attaches the blood pressure cuff. I'm thinking nothing of it except, God, I hope my kid's still alive by the time I get home. Did they have to use formula? I tried to leave some milk, but I know my production is poor. Oh my God, it's so hot. I'm looking at home. I'm so tired. I just want to baby. The beep of the blood pressure machine shows a systolic blood pressure top number of 135, which I think nothing of it because 135 is whatever. But in the land of postpartum, that signifies concern for preeclampsia. So the nurse is like, oh, it's a little high. I said, no. I'm just anxious. It's hot. Walked a long way. Just like wait a few minutes and try again. She's like, all right. So I try to find my zen. I try to find my happy place, my ocean and my beaches. And I have him recheck it again. Now my systolic, but my blood pressure is in the 1/4. She goes, we have to do blood work. You're going to have to see the doctor. And I said, but, and no, this was a blood pressure check. I got to vocal. As I am starting to openly leap in this large open space in front of a ton of strangers I have never met, all I hear circling is that I have to go home. When I was delivering my beautiful baby boy, my husband said, hey, we never talked about this, but if it's you or the baby, and say to you. Well, bro, kind of a weird time to bring that up, but let's talk about that. He goes, you always need you. Your mom needs you. I need you. You're the glue of this family. Now, for context, my mom and my husband are the exact same person, meaning they could either be best friends or mortal enemies. And we all live in the same household. So on a good day, they're besties. On a lot of days, they're not. And my 2 oldest boys are from a previous marriage and have already lost a relationship with the father before. So I'm the one holding everyone together. The pregnant one who works full-time and is currently trying to just survive is somehow holding all these other people together. Is that the blue? So as she tells me I need to get my blood drawn, I come back in. The nurse talks to me and says, you have to stay. I was about to leave the AMA, y'all. About to jet. She's like, you have to stay because that they lose you forever. That's a whole other story. So I go to the back and I get my blood drawn. And again, they're cycling my blood pressure every 15 minutes. Click, inflate, click, inflate. Now, I went to med school and developed some pretty good pattern recognition. So when the click, inflate alarm goes off, that's bad. And it kept doing it every 15 minutes. The resident came in with my lab results and said, your liver enzymes are elevated. I said, okay, thanks. Meanwhile, I'm texting with a night friend who's way smarter than me. She's in Neo, somewhere on some cool beach cabin that I prefer not to visit because she's so far. And she goes, so what are the lab results? And I tell her. And she goes, so you have preeclampsia. Like, no. I can have after birth, right? Like, it's like just trauma after birth. She immediately calls me. Mind you, I'm laying in a hospital bed with my beret askew and puffy eyes, trying to breathe while I talk as I try to cry again. And she goes, you have preeclampsia. This is not a question. It's a diagnosis, and you need to calm down and let them treat you. And as in that moment of clarity, Now, as much as I still continue to deny it in my head, she was right. Everyone needs a friend who's honest like that. And in that moment, I also realized that maybe being the glue is not what I'm supposed to be right now. So, I don't know if you guys know about Black women and preeclampsia, but the statistics aren't good. But I'm standing here with you today. I survived. Got mad for a while, hated it. Was on ICU level of care, hated it. Was separated from my baby for 24 hours, hated it. Spiraled into postpartum depression requiring lots of therapy and good old Zoloft. Loving it. But what I lost was the need to be the glue for the people in my life. What I found was the desire to be wanted. And that's precious. Thank you.
Yeah, such incredible stories. Physician heal thyself, right? Up next, we have Alejandra Hurtado, who is a fourth-year medical student at UC Irvine School of Medicine in the Mission-Based Program in Medical Education for Latino Community, PRIME LC. Alejandra is aspiring and very welcome future family medicine physician with a passion for community medicine and advocacy. Outside of medicine, she enjoys tending her garden, enriching her home with thrifted finds, and spending time with family. Let's welcome Alejandra.
Where the fuck am I? No lobby, just 2 chairs. No reception desk, just a wall, filled with pamphlets. Some read adoption services, childcare, lactation support. Where was the pamphlet that pertained to me? My search was interrupted by a woman. Hi, Alejandra, welcome. Why don't you follow me into the room so you can get your ultrasound? I followed her into a narrow room, just enough room for an exam table and an ultrasound with a one-light probe. I undressed, waist down as instructed, and the exam began. I looked to my right, and the screen flickered to life. The woman outlined a 4-inch shape. That's her baby. Give me a moment while I take some measurements. It looks like you're 7 weeks and 4 days along. Congratulations. It was the same phrase that my primary care physician had just shared 4 days earlier. You see, my mom had made me an annual wellness visit while I was calling on spring break. Because for the past 4 weeks, I was really tired, but I was also a 4th-year biology major. I was expecting to find out that I was low in iron or some other electrolyte, but instead, when my primary care physician walked into the room, she shared, "Congratulations, you're pregnant. Make sure you buy and start your prenatal vitamins right after this visit. And don't forget to make your first prenatal appointment with your future OB-GYN." I took a long pause, looked up at her, and shared, "I don't plan to keep this pregnancy. Can we talk about my options? How do I get an abortion?" She replied, "Unfortunately,
Because I practice at a religiously affiliated clinic, I cannot provide counsel on this, but I can refer you to somewhere else that can. She handed me a pamphlet. It read, Crisis Pregnancy Center. It was my only lifeline. It was a pamphlet that would lead me to my ultrasound. Pamphlet in hand, she walked me out into the hallway, stopped a colleague, and introduced him as my future OB-GYN and me as his future patient, a role I never intended to fill. Rapid, fluttering heartbeat, I am brought back to the ultrasound room. The woman excitedly shares, "That's your baby's heartbeat." She takes a moment for me to take it all in. And just like that, my exam was over. Here are some prints for you to take home of your baby's first ultrasound. Why don't you get dressed? I'll be waiting outside, and we can go talk about your options in a different room. Still numb by the echo of a foreign heartbeat, I redress and follow the woman into a new room. This room is larger. Enough room for a blue couch, 2 chairs right in front. And the walls are adorned with posters. As I read closer, I realize these are Bible verses. I sit down on the couch, and there's a woman I haven't met before in front of me. She introduces herself, then asks me how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. I reply, I feel a mix of emotions. I came here today to get an abortion. The 2 women exchanged glances, and they began to pray. God, please help Alejandra. Please guide her to make the right choice. As they continued to pray, a pit formed in my stomach. Was it guilt? Was it fetal movement? No. It was doom. I was not going to get my abortion here today. Amen. The women had finished praying, and they handed me the same pamphlets I had seen when I had first walked in, and they escorted me out. Now outside, touched by the warmth of the sun, I wondered, how did I end up here? Who can I trust? My primary care physician sent me here to coerce me to make a different decision. My autonomy was dismissed, and my care was delayed. But I am leaving here with something they never intended to give me. Righteous rage, clarity. I will get my abortion. It is my right. It is my body. It is my choice. I have 2.5 weeks until my 10th week mark. Spring break is almost over, and I'll be back in Irvine. I will call the Planned Parenthood in Costa Mesa. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandra. I feel a lot of righteous rage right now. So. All right. So for our final storyteller tonight, we have Dr. Nikki Mittal, who is a pulmonary and critical care physician at Riverside University Health System Medical Center, where she serves as the associate director for the internal medicine residency program. She focuses on pulmonary embolism and is the founder and director of the pulmonary embolism response team at RUHS. She is also the director of the fourth year medical school clerkship in critical care for UC Riverside. Outside of work, she enjoys attempts to home garden, baking, and dancing around the house with her 2 children. Please welcome Dr. Mittal.
So I'm a mess. Everything that I've spent 40 or so years building in my life feels like it's just exploded like confetti and is falling around me. I just had a second child who's a few months old, and I walked away from my marriage to my partner of, 10 plus years. And this seems like my entire world's collapsing. So I'm a complete mess. And I'm just trying to focus on the thing that I know that I'm good at, which is being a doctor. So Sunday night comes around and I get sign out from my colleague about the patients that I'm going to be picking up in the ICU the next day. And he mentions one of them as a patient who had pretty prolonged cardiac arrest outside of the hospital and was found to be anoxic and not waking up. And they had the discussion with the family, and the family had opted to withdraw care. Something that we are quite familiar with in the ICU. So they were going to withdraw care, and at the last moment, the family changed their mind and said, no, we don't want to. So he said, we've talked to them, they were going to do this. I'm not quite sure what their plan is now. This is where we left it with them, just that we stopped the withdrawal. Okay, no problem. So back to me being a mess. I'm driving into work and I'm crying, and I walk to my car, from my car to my office, and I'm crying, and then I try to pull myself together to get through what I have to get through for the day. So first thing on the ticket is rounds. Okay, pull it together, Nikki. Let's just get through rounds. So I get through rounds on this patient, go back, take a little break in my office, cry about my completely collapsed and fallen apart leg, and then pull it back together to go now and meet the patients and examine them myself. So I walk into this man's room, and it's this corner room, and the sun is just shining in. It's mid-afternoon, and the patient himself doesn't really feel like anything. He just has this very methodical rise and fall of his chest from being on the ventilator, but I don't really get any feel or sense or kind of spirit from him. But in the room are these 2 men, and they've got these big cowboy boots and these cowboy hats on, and a woman. I find out that they're the patient's brothers and the wife. So I just talk to them, we know that this has happened. These are the next steps that we can go, or we can go this way. These are the options. You just let me know if there's other people involved in this discussion that would like to meet. You can set up a time to meet. And, they're kind of quiet. They don't seem sad. They don't seem upset. They just say, oh, okay, we'll discuss it. Okay. So I walk out and I go about my day, a little bit proud of myself that I had this hard discussion and hold it together, and, there was no kind of hard feelings about this. And I go about my day. The next day I go back to the room, and there's a woman there who I find out is his oldest daughter. And she asked me a lot of questions. She clearly was not aware of what was going on with their father. And at the end, she says, oh no, my dad wouldn't want this. We wouldn't do this. Okay, sure. And the wife is also there. And she kind of catches me on the way out the door. And in Spanish, she says to me, when you talked to me yesterday, you weren't very kind. I didn't know those things about my husband. And you just told me. You weren't very kind about it. And now I feel awful. Not only is my life falling apart, I failed at the thing that I know I'm good at doing, which is giving compassion at this moment when someone is going through a really hard time. And this is what my job is to do in the ICU, is to be compassionate and soften the landing for families like this. So I put my hands to my chest and I apologized profusely. I'm so sorry. And then I look to the daughter and in English, I repeat to her, please tell your mother, I'm so sorry. I thought she knew those things. I'm so sorry. And I walk out and I go back to my office very quickly and crying again because, gosh, I just failed at the thing I'm supposed to be good at doing. The next day, now I have to double brace myself to walk back in this room and talk to her. And she's not mean. She's not kind. She's just very dry. No questions. We're going to withdraw on Sunday. Okay, are you sure? Yes, Sunday. Same thing Thursday, same thing Friday. Okay, Sunday comes around. Turns out that they have 13 children. So Sunday I walk in the room, and again, mid-afternoon, the sun is shining in. It's this beautiful, bright, warm room. The patient, you still don't really get a feel from him. It was just this methodical rise and fall. You can hear he great. He doesn't really have a presence in the room. But the room is now filled to the brim with people. He's got 13 grown adult children and partners, and they have the brothers and sisters and uncles and cousins. And this room, there's no space in this room for not one more person to squeeze in except me and the interpreter. So it's Sunday, we're going to withdraw care. I bring an interpreter in with me, and I kind of go over my standard spiel. Here's what's happened. Here's how we've gotten to this day. Here's how this works. Does anyone have any questions? And there's a few questions, but everyone is kind of dry-eyed and pretty straightforward and seemingly a little bit kind of at peace with this. So I was a little taken aback by the room because I had not seen any of these 13 kids. I had not seen most of the people in this room. And here we were meeting on this day. So we answer a few questions. And again, my standard, like, you let me know when you're ready. We can start the process. And I turn to walk out and they say, oh no, we're ready right now. Oh, right now? Yes, we're ready right now. Oh, okay, yes, let me just put a few orders in and get things ready and we can go ahead and start the process. So I turned to walk out, and again, bracing myself like, okay, I did good. I didn't cry. Family doesn't seem to hate me, even though I was apparently not kind. And I'm kind of a little relieved, and all of a sudden I feel some hands hook around my waist. And I'm a little taken aback, who's touching me at work, and it's the wife. And she pulls me back and she says, you know, I'm sorry. My family and I, we wanted to know if we could pray over you. If you could come back into the room. And of course, whatever I could do to help this family soften this landing, of course I will do. So I go back in, and I've had, times where I've prayed with patients' families, and I myself am not specifically spiritual in any sense as a Lord, but this moment is not about me. This moment is about this family and the loss of this man that means so much to them. So of course, yes, please, I would love that. So I go back in, and again, the room is packed full, and I start to face this woman, and she grabs my hand, and she says, when I told you the other day that you weren't kind to me, I wasn't actually being right. I thought you weren't being kind, but I went home, and I prayed about it, and God told me that he had sent you here so that I could hear you, and that I could understand what you were saying was right, and that I could let my husband go. And so I'm very grateful to you, and I was hoping that my family and I could pray over you. And I said, oh yes, I would be very grateful for that. Thank you. So I'm standing there facing this woman, and she's my height. I'm only 5'2". She's my height. We start holding hands, and she starts praying, and in Spanish, and I've got this interpreter standing there, even though I understand Spanish, and she starts praying. She's Dios, 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 God sent you here, and God, tells me you're a very, smart person, you're a smart doctor, and you're supposed to be here to help these patients. And as she starts chanting and praying, everyone in the room starts doing their own chanting and praying, and it's not in unison. Everyone is just speaking their own words. And you could kind of feel this whole energy starting to rise up in the room. And I'm holding it together. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying to just be present and put out all of my good energy into the universe for this family to have some peace with this moment. And as she keeps praying, all of the other kind of voices in the room drown out. And all I hear is this woman holding my hands, staring into my eyes. And I can just hear very clearly every word she's saying. And as she starts with these like generic, you're a good doctor, you're big, kind, you're smart. She starts instead to like peel me open. And she starts seemingly speaking and addressing things that have been weighing down in my heart. I know you're going through a hard time. I know you're walking a very difficult path, and God tells me you're going to be okay. I know the choices you're making right now aren't easy, but you must keep going because it's the right choice and everything will be okay. And now at this point, I don't know how she knows this about me. I've, of course, been a mess, but every time I'm in this room, I'm holding it together. But it feels like she's staring directly into my soul and just picking out all of these things that have just been weighing me down, that have just been making me feel like I'm going to collapse at any moment. And she's taking them and she's just giving them wings and making them lighter and addressing them all. And as she keeps talking now, oh, if I was a mess before, you better believe I was a mess now. I have big, ugly tears streaming down my face. I've got snot streaming down my face. I am squeezing her hands. I am shaking. I am trying not to collapse in this moment as like she is just pouring all of this love in her hardest moment onto me. And really, in this moment where I'm supposed to be her support, she's actually just lifting me up. So the entire family prays over me for what feels like an eternity. Honestly, it must have been, in my head, it felt like 20 minutes. It probably was like 4 or 5 minutes. But I walk out and immediately I feel this overwhelming sense of peace. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. And can we have another round of applause for our storytellers? Storytellers, will you please come out here? So. Yeah, and it's like a pageant. They get flowers. And she wasn't on stage before, so I also a huge round of applause for Naomi, right? Thank you everyone who made tonight possible, and thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.